Hello and welcome everyone. I just thought I would take some time to talk to you about all the posts we see this time of year around self-love. And don't get me wrong, I get it that self-love is important and nothing is more powerful than the act of turning your love inwards towards yourself. But what if you can't actually love your body? And cultivating a practice of self-love and feeling positive about the way you look can be really overwhelming and triggering, and body love can often feel like something else you're just not doing right, and it feels like one more thing that you're failing at. I live with body dysmorphia and I don't think that I will ever learn to love my external body. I also feel that we live in a very overstimulated world that encourages disconnection from ourselves. We're living outside of our bodies on social media, seeing false truths, doctored images that make us feel like our bodies just don't measure up. We're often running on like an autopilot, occupied, distracted, without any adequate time to breathe. We strive for perfectionism and have so much self-judgment, which is all the perfect recipe to cultivate the voice of our inner critic. And when that inner critic appears, the feelings of shame and inadequacy and failure just leads to even more anxiety and depression. And when you're overly self-critical, you treat yourself in ways that you would never treat someone that you care about. We kind of end up beating ourselves up for everything, everything that's happened to you, punishing yourself for any imperfection or weakness, and discouraging yourself from being happy. And I have really warmed towards body neutrality. It's this radical notion of taking a neutral perspective towards your body, accepting it just as it is, not loving it, not hating it, but being able to appreciate it for what it can do regardless, and then being able to proceed with self-compassion. Self-compassion is defined as caring for ourselves as we would a friend. Instead of judging and criticising yourself for various inadequacies or shortcomings, self-compassion means that you're kind and understanding when confronted with personal challenges. Because at the end of the day, no one's perfect, and that is absolutely okay. You may not always love your body, but you may still live happily and appreciate everything that your body can do. Your eyes that can see, your arms that can hug, your legs that can walk you around in this amazing world. Befriending our bodies or body neutrality, the ability to be present in our body and feel at peace in our body. So, learning to treat ourselves like we treat a friend. And no matter how much our external environment changes, we always remain in the same body. Our bodies go through changes, but it's still the same body. So today's practice, I want to kind of guide you through some mindful movement with non-judgmental present awareness so that you can really embody the practice. When we're mindful of our current experiences, we can better assess how we're feeling and what it is we need, and how best we can show compassion towards ourselves without over-identifying with or repressing our emotional experience. So I really hope that you enjoy embodying the yoga with me and can move away from the outside of our bodies, what we see, that comparison, the negativity, and move towards the inner awareness to cultivate a movement of radical self-care. So thank you for listening to me so far, and throughout the practice I will use a couple of yoga blocks, and you can always substitute those with some books or some pots or pans or anything that you've got laying around the house. It's just to kind of raise the floor up to meet your hands. So I look forward to seeing you on the mat. Hello, welcome back. Thank you for joining me on the mat. So we're going to start our class in child's pose today, if that's okay for you. If you'd like to add in any more props to make yourself comfortable, then feel free. And we'll extend the arms forwards and begin to recognize the breath. So without any judgment, notice where the breath is traveling. Perhaps it's in the front body or the back body. Notice where the breath goes. And notice how it feels. If it's fast or slow. If it's deep or shallow. It's kind of recognizing the pattern of your breath without casting any judgment or criticism. Just sit with the breath. Now we'll take our hands and start to walk them over towards the right side. So you might start to notice a slight intentional sensation of stretch down the left side of the body. So if you feel that sensation, can you be present with it? If you can't feel that sensation, know that that's perfectly okay. Just notice what you are feeling. Or if there's no feelings at all, just recognize that. And then we'll take the hands, we'll walk them over towards the left side. And observe the sensations you're feeling this side, and just notice if there's any difference one side to the other, and refrain from labeling a good side and a bad side. They're just different, and see if you can recognize that. And we'll come back to the center. Take another breath here. And in your own time and in your own way, start to journey onto your hands and knees. So I'm going to invite you to move through a few rounds of cat and cow. And rather than really focusing on when the breath should be in an inhale and when it should be in an exhale, just let it flow really naturally. And also, if your body likes to move in any other way, honor that and allow that to happen. So you might want to keep flowing through cat and cow, and that's absolutely fine. Or you might want to move the hips more forwards and back. You might want to kind of work with more of a rounded spine and move the hips side to side. Or you could take some scribbles with the spine and move around in any kind of free direction. So don't worry about what you're doing, what it looks like. See if you can go inwards and feel into the body and feel different sensations and what feels good and what doesn't. Just take a few more moments to move in whatever way you want to move. And then I'm going to invite you to come down onto your front body, resting onto your elbows. See if you can separate the feet and root the toenails down into the earth. And then at the same time, root your fingertips down into the ground and feel as if you're dragging them back towards you. And then as you do that, you might notice that the heart starts to travel forwards. And keeping that activation through the body as you invite in a breath. And let's explore with rolling over onto the right hip. And just let the legs land wherever they land, and perhaps prop yourself up onto your hand. And okay, again, kind of notice what you feel and move away from any idea of what you think that you should be feeling or what anything should look like. And start to sink the rib cage down towards the ground. And just notice if there's a sensation anywhere in your body. And then start to feel yourself back onto your front body. Bring the elbows back onto the ground. Root the toenails down, root the fingertips down. And feel as if you're pulling the hands back towards you, lengthening the heart forwards. And we'll explore with the same thing on the left side, rolling onto the left hip. Perhaps prop yourself up onto your hand. Start to sink the rib cage down towards the earth. It's taking your time to sit in the present moment and feel any sensations that you feel or that you don't feel. Just be present with whatever's happening in your body right now. And we'll come over back onto the front. Sphinx pose one last time, gripping the ground with the fingertips, rooting the toenails down. And imagine pulling your hands back on the mat to reach the heart forwards. And then taking your time, we'll move through tabletop, come onto hands and knees. Separate the hands so they're about as wide as your mat. And tuck the toes under to stretch the soles of the feet. You could start to move the hips back towards the heels. And you might like to stay exactly here. If this is bringing up some form of release for you, then stay exactly as you are. Now, if you'd like to, you could take your adventure to downward facing dog today and root down through the palms, start to lift the knees and leading with your sitting bones, reaching them up towards the sky, and keep the knees quite bent to begin with. Press down through the hands as if you're sliding the hands forward. See if you can feel the shoulders start to elevate up towards the ears. And then once you've got this nice long spine, then you could start to straighten the legs slightly, and possibly they won't go all the way straight, and that's okay. We don't want to
try and feel we've got to get the heels to the ground or anything like that. Keep the heels lifted, the knees bent. Find a little bit more space in the back body. So you could stay here in your downward facing dog. You could be in tabletop. You might want to come back to tabletop and bring the knees down. And we're going to take our right leg and extend it all the way back. We stretch through the legs, stretch through the toes. You might like to bend the knee, opening the hip and perhaps circle through the ankle. And start to draw the knee in towards the chest and step the right foot forwards, and do explore whether it feels better with your hand on the outside of your foot or on the inside of your foot. Find a comfortable space for your foot to land. And if the back knee is down, we're going to tuck the back toes and lift the knee. If you entered from downward facing dog, your knee will probably already be lifted. And just gently start to rock forwards and back. Lifting the left heel up and down. I'm sorry if you hear a funny noise. My dog is in here with me, snoring away. Now we're going to bring the back knee down, place it to the ground softly. So we want to find today, this shape's a little bit more boxy than our usual lizard pose. So the back knee is kind of underneath the back hip. And we'll heel toe our right foot a little bit more to the right side. And imagine you're making that cow pose shape with your spine. You're starting to lift the sitting bones and form an arch in the lower back. And you could stay on your hands. You could bring in the use of your blocks. Bring the elbows onto the blocks. You could take your elbows all the way to the ground, perhaps a little bit more over to the left side, might be more comfortable for some. And arc the heart forwards. So if the elbows are down on the ground, remember our Sphinx pose where we were pulling the hands back to reach the heart forwards. If you can find that sensation through the body, and rather than thinking that it should look a certain way, see if you can find the engagement of the back muscles and really feel the body doing these amazing things and strengthening and working on getting you through the practice. Okay, we're going to come back onto our hands and we'll take our front leg and extend it. Okay, and again, take your time, be mindful and present, and explore with what feels the best shape for you. If you want your hands a little bit wider or on the inside of the leg, see what works for you best. And then root down through the front heel and feel as if you're magnetizing your 2 feet towards one another. And we're going to change the shape of our spine and see if you can notice different sensations that you feel throughout the body. So again, coming away from this idea of how you expect your body to look and behave, and come inwards and see what you can feel as we start to arch the spine, like we're finding cow pose. And then round the spine as if you're coming into cat pose. And keep moving with the sensations, and perhaps you'll notice here an intentional change in the sensation down the back of the leg. If you don't feel anything, again, that's absolutely okay. Just try to accept whatever is happening in your body. And then we'll bend back into the front knee, root the foot down, bring the hands back onto the ground, tuck the back toes, lift the knee, and step the right foot back to a plank pose. And feel free to bring the knees to the ground if you'd like. Root down through the palms, separate the shoulder blades. And then start to draw the hip points forwards towards the wrists. Magnetize the shoulders back towards one another. Reach the heart forwards. So your knees can be up or down. And then wherever your adventure's taking you today, we'll go back either to tabletop or downward facing dog. And if you're in downward facing dog, know that you can bring the knees down and come back into tabletop at any time. And either from tabletop or downward facing dog, extend through the left leg. Reach the left leg back, reach through the toes. You might like to explore with bending the knee and opening the hip. Perhaps circle through the ankle. Then bring the knee forwards towards the chest. Step in the left foot forwards and explore with the hand on the inside or the outside of the foot. If the back knee is down, tuck the back toes, lift the knee. Or gently rock forwards and back, lifting the back heel up and down. Okay, good. Right, we're going to bring the back knee down. We're in kind of a boxy lunge. Heel toe the foot a little bit more to the left side. And you could stay on your hands. You could come down to your blocks. You could come down to your elbows. And think about finding that cow shape in your spine. So the sitting bones move back and up, arching through the back, reaching the heart forward. And just tapping into what you're feeling, your inner sensations. Now we'll come back up onto the hands and extend the left leg, root down through the heel and magnetize the 2 feet towards one another. And then from here, you could start to explore with moving the spine through cat and cow, noticing sensations as they arise, perhaps into the hamstrings down the back of the left leg. And bend back into the front knee. Root the hands into the ground, tuck the back toes, lift the knee, and step back to plank pose. And do feel free to bring the knees down. Start to work the hip points forwards towards the wrists, drawing the shoulders back, arcing the heart forwards. And then take your journey back to tabletop or downward facing dog. Now, if you're in downward facing dog, I invite you to take your feet a little wider and turn the toes out slightly. And start to walk your hands back towards the feet, bend through the knees, bringing the hips towards the heels. Okay, from tabletop, if you tuck your toes, you can lift your knees and work your way back into the same little yogi squat shape. Now you can always take a block and place it underneath the sitting bones if that's more comfortable for you while we're here. And feel free, if the heels lift, to let them lift. If you want to be up a little higher, you could be up a little higher. There's plenty of options. Don't feel that it needs to look a certain way. You could leave the hands down, or you can bring the hands to the heart and start to lengthen up through the crown of the head. Inviting the breath in. Bring the hands back to the earth, start to walk them forwards, bring the knees to the ground, take the big toes together and sit back towards the heels, extending the arms forwards. And take a moment to come back to the breath. Finding the awareness of the breath, the pace, the rhythm, the quality of the breath. And slowly travel back to hands and knees. Now we can again stay in tabletop or find your adventure to downward facing dog. And we'll take the right foot and step it forwards. If the back knee's down, tuck the back toes, lift it up. We can take our hands onto blocks, take them a little step forwards, root down through the front foot and start to lift the back leg from the ground. And lift it as high as it wants to go today. Think more about lengthening through the spine. And bring the left foot underneath you, separating the feet, bend into the knees and bow forwards. Let the head and the neck start to soften towards the earth, lifting the sitting bones up towards the sky. And nice and slowly, do move slow, come all the way up to stand. Reach the arms up, take a big stretch. And then breathing out, we'll bow forwards, soft through the knees. Bringing the hands to the ground, stepping back to your tabletop or downward facing dog. Lifting the left leg and then step it forwards. If the back knee is down, tuck the back toes, lift the knee. Bringing the hands to the blocks. You could take a step forwards with the blocks, root down through the left foot and lift up through the right leg. And slowly step the right foot underneath you. And bow forwards over the legs. Bending into the knees as much as feels good in your body. Let the torso soften towards the earth. Lift the sitting bones towards the sky. And slowly come up to stand. Reach the arms up. As you breathe out, bow all the way forwards. Placing the hands on the ground, stepping back to your downward facing dog or your tabletop pose. Now we're going to come into pigeon and we're going to slide the left knee forwards and take it towards the left edge of the mat with the toes towards the right edge of the mat. Now take your blocks, root down through the feet and magnetize the 2 feet towards one another. So quite the opposite of how we'd normally take pigeon pose. So we can really get out of that expectation of what it should look like and see if you can bring some activation and some sensations into the pose. So really draw the feet towards one another so the hips actually lift a little from the ground. And then allow everything to soften. Come onto the forearms, grip the ground with the fingertips and feel like you're dragging the hands back towards you to reach the heart forwards. Coming back up onto the hands, we'll roll onto the outer hip and swing the right leg forwards and over the top of the left. So see how this feels in your body. And if it's not great, we take the underneath leg and extend it forwards. So you can have the left leg straight and the right leg on the top, drawing the right foot towards the hip, the left hip, and then bring the fingertips to the ground, start to lengthen up through the spine. And if it feels like you want to stay here with this left leg bent, you can have that option as well. And then start to magnetize the shoulders a little bit back towards one another, leading with the heart as you start to bow forwards over the legs. So just noticing the difference in sensations as you keep this activation in the back body rather than just collapsing and rounding forwards. Okay, now we'll swing the legs back around to come back to our tabletop or downward facing dog. And we'll take the right knee forwards, turn the right knee out to the right side, the toes towards the left side. So the shins on a diagonal, and slightly step the left foot back a little. Now bringing the hands onto the blocks. I'm going to magnetize the 2 feet towards one another in this pigeon pose to lift the hips up slightly. Feel into the activation of the muscles. Appreciate what the body's doing for you right now. And then soften down. Coming onto the elbows, gripping the ground with the fingertips, start to draw the hands back towards you, arcing the heart forwards. Come back up onto the hands, roll onto the outer hip and swing the left leg forwards and cross it over the top of the right. And then make your intuitive choice if you'd like to stay with both legs bent or if you'd like to extend the right leg underneath. There's no right or wrong. It's just different. If we can just embrace the difference. Sit up nice and tall. To magnetize the shoulders back towards one another and reach the heart forwards towards the toes if the legs extended or towards the knees if the legs are bent. And then we'll sit back up and extend both legs forwards. Bring the hands by the sides, press down into the hands to lengthen up through the spine. You might feel a little more comfortable with the knees bent, or you can have the option to sit up onto a block. And then bending both knees slightly. Sit up nice and tall and lean forwards. Reach towards your toes. Now you could hold on to the outer edge of the foot. You could take your peace sign fingers, wrap them around the big toes and pull back on the foot to get really long through your spine. So your torso is connecting to your legs. And just invite in the breath and be aware of the sensations of the breath. And you might choose to stay exactly here. I can already feel a lot of activation in my back body. So you could stay here and be present with that. Or you might like to start to move the heels a little further forwards and see if you can prioritize the length of the spine, the activation of the back body, rather than straightening through the legs. So if you start to kind of round through your spine, perhaps you could reset. Think about finding the length through the spine. If you can magnetize the shoulders back a little. And see, by activating the back body, if you can notice the strength that this is taking and really appreciate that your body's doing this for you. Okay, if you want to, you can work the heels a little bit further forwards. And then slowly release. Bringing the feet flat to the floor, making your way about halfway down your mat. Reach the arms forwards and start to round through the spine as you lower all the way down. Notice the vertebrae by vertebrae touching the mat, and draw the knees in towards the chest. Give yourself a little hug. And then extend the arms, extend the legs, reaching through the fingertips and the toe tips. And allow the body to come into its final resting pose. So maybe you want to stay exactly as you are. You could always lie onto your side, or even come up to a seat, anything that feels like it's going to serve you best right now in this. In your body right now, to honor a little bit more kindness and compassion, and add in an extra layer of softness. Feel the support of the ground. Notice the parts of the body that connect with the earth. And really feel the ground holding you and supporting you. Take a moment to scan over the body and notice how you're holding it. Perhaps notice if there's any change in the sensations that you're feeling now after we've finished our practice. And then take a moment to thank your body for sharing this practice with you and guiding you through. And I invite you to stay here for as long as you need to honor this moment of rest. May we invite peace into our bodies. May we speak words that heal and create peace. May we bring peace to our minds. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you for sharing this practice with me. It's been an honor to guide you. Thank you for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day.